We're comparing fish and chips in the US and the UK. This is Food Wars. We got our food today from the Golden Chippy in Greenwich. For me, it's a pretty classic British fish and chip shop.
For the US, we're using a few different fish and chip sources. Most Americans are familiar with the pirate-themed fish chain Long John Silver's. This is where we got a majority of the food today. We also got a fish and chips order from a local restaurant.
All of the food that we ordered today came from Assault and Battery here in New York. They seemed like the most close to a traditional fish and chips from the UK. And it got the Harry stamp of approval.
The most popular fish and chip fish in the UK is cod. Our chippy offered it in two sizes, regular and large.
At a Long John Silver's, the main fish they serve there is Alaskan pollock. And it comes in a bunch of sizes. Starting down here, a 1-piece, just a piece. Then you get a 2-piece as a meal, a 3-piece as a meal, and a 6-piece as a meal. Now, there's also 12-piece family meals and 16-piece family meals.
Let's weigh the UK cod portions. Our regular cod was 270 grams, and our large was 352 grams.
How many LJS pieces of fish would equal that? Let's find out. One was 73. This is as close as I'm gonna get it without breaking up fish and it getting kind of gross in here. So this Long John Silver's Alaskan pollock pieces is 364 grams. 5 pieces of LJS equals a little more than one of their large cod.
I also wanted to measure them to check the length. So our regular cod is 10 inches long, and our large cod is 12 inches, a foot-long cod. UK chippies are famously generous with their chip portion sizes. No, I'm not going to call them fries in this episode. Our local chippy offers them in two sizes, regular and large.
Here in America, we call those fries, yet we still call this fish and chips. So the chips that came with this order will weigh right now.
So our regular was 682 grams, and our large portion came to 927 grams, almost a kilogram of chips.
148 grams. Pathetic. I just want to point out that this whole meal, while I'm here, 305 grams. Hey, I'll even weigh the lemon you don't eat. Oh, thanks, 317.
We can't cover all of the regional delicacies that you'll find across the UK, but we've picked a chippy that we think covers the basics.
It's a similar deal here in the US where fish and other seafood are consumed all over the country in a bunch of different forms. We'll be covering classic fried fish options and using Long John Silver's as a baseline, or bass line. Get it?
We'll start with the fish itself. The range can vary every day as it depends on what's available at the market. The best fish and chip shops will be getting their fish fresh every day rather than keeping things frozen for too long. Cod is the UK's most popular fish and chip shop fish. It accounts for around 64% of the fish that we consume at Chippies. Haddock follows that with around 19% of the market share.
So right now the fried fish at Long John Silver's menu is pollock and in some locations cod. Here's the pollock from Long John Silver's. Here's a cod from our local fish and chippery. Now Long John Silver's fish option seems to vary year on year. Cod was a permanent menu item, then disappeared for a while, but now it seems to be back. Cod is fluffier. This is really dense. Like if you could see the pollock, it's flaking like fish would, right?
Gotta arm myself properly with some classic British chip shop forks. I mean, cod is the classic. Haddock is strongly favoured by the north of England and most of Scotland. Haddock is great. It's very flaky, got quite a nice light texture to it. I kind of want to do like a side-by-side with the cod because I sometimes struggle to tell the difference between those two, to be honest. The haddock is super light, super flaky, almost like melts in your mouth. I'd say maybe the haddock also has slightly more of a fishy flavour than the cod.
So I have the haddock and the cod in front of me. I'm gonna try to see if there's any sort of difference in the way that each tastes. This is the haddock and this is the cod. Okay, let's start with the haddock. I don't feel like the haddock has a very fishy taste or a strong taste at all, but let me take a little piece of the actual fish. Very, very, very slightly has like a fishy taste, but you can barely taste it in the batter. It's really good though. I like that less. I thought these were gonna taste a lot more similar, but they actually taste pretty different. I really do not like the taste of cod, I guess. I know Harry said that the haddock tends to have a stronger, fishier taste, but I disagree. I feel like this is a much more tame and subtle fish flavor, and this is like really in your face. Fish. It actually reminds me of frozen American fish sticks.
We were also able to get rock today. I wouldn't say this is a super common one. Rock actually refers to a species of fish called the rock salmon, which is also known as dogfish. The fun thing about this one is that it's actually a species of shark. I do find that this one has a much more like meaty texture to it. and quite a strong flavor. You might look at the rock portion here and think, oh, it's a lot smaller, but I do think it's just like a lot more dense and rich. Just admire this piece of plaice real quick. As you can probably tell by looking at it, plaice is a much flatter fish. One thing I do love about plaice is that given how much surface area there is, that's just all like an opportunity to crisp up. The meat itself stays again, nice flaky, strong flavor to it. Next up we have the halibut. You can already see just from tearing that apart that this has a bit of a denser texture to it, not quite as flaky. And then finally we have skate on the menu. We actually got this one grilled, which is an option that you can have with all of the fish on the menu at the Golden Chippy. I will say having grilled fish on the menu isn't super common at fish and chip shops across the UK. This might just be a nice little bougie London option.
So here we have two other seafood options from the same fish and chip shop. We have sole and we have some battered shrimp. I have never seen shrimp battered with the tail on, and the tail is also completely battered. Can't you just like accidentally eat that, I guess? Like if you didn't know? It's huge. These are big shrimp. Yeah, this is really good. I've never hated a shrimp dish. I have had sole before. I've had Dover sole and it was cooked completely differently, not battered. But let's taste it. It smells way better than the cod. It's definitely a fishier taste than the haddock, but not as fishy as the cod was, in my opinion. I think this is actually really nice. I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to try malt vinegar on fish for the first time. I've only ever had it like on oysters. This is really good. I really like it.
Then we have what I'll call miscellaneous seafood options. Cod goujons. Goujon is basically a fancy French word for a nugget or a tender. I feel like goujonifying something is a good way to get kids to eat it. Scampi is actually an Italian word that refers to the tail of pretty much any kind of prawn. In the UK, however, it pretty much only refers to the tail of a langoustine. A langoustine is actually closer to a lobster than a prawn, with a long tail and claws. Despite the biological differences, in the UK, a lot of people do still use the terms interchangeably.
A chain like Long John Silver's does offer a lot of varieties of shrimp, so all those varieties could be considered an exclusive. Though Long John Silver's in Los Angeles does not, unfortunately, have those shrimp options. The only one we could get is the battered shrimp. In the US, size is one general indicator. Shrimp is the more common term, but prawns are sometimes used to describe larger varieties. Here are shrimps that are big-ish, and we also got shrimp tacos from a spot across the street.
Here is one of our peeled scampi.
I mean, yeah, these are pretty big-sized. No one's like, is this a prawn?
So yeah, I'd say probably more on the langoustine prawn side, definitely not a shrimp. You know what? After tasting it, that actually does have a much more lobstery taste than a prawny taste to me. So that actually might be doing it by the book at the Golden Chippy.
I'm not impressed by big shrimp. They're meant to be small. We use the word shrimp to describe something small. Shrimps should be small. Put it on a billboard.
Next up we have cod roe. If you see cod roe on the menu at a British chip shop, what you're actually getting is kind of like a pressed, almost like pate version of fish eggs. It's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. The texture's not brilliant, but it's also not terrible. It kind of just almost reminds me of the texture of like tuna or something, like raw tuna. And then here we have a fish cake. Generally speaking, it refers to a mixture of potato and fish. Yeah, this one in particular, it just kind of feels like a more grown-up fish finger, which I like. Moving away from the fish, there are lots of other staples on a British chip shop menu that might blow the minds of the average American. We'll start with some sausage options. Here we have a jumbo sausage. It is one of those kind of like very nostalgic chip shop greasy spoon sausages that they all seem to have. Here we have a battered sausage. It's literally one of those dipped in batter and fried. I love these. These were actually usually my go-to order when I was a kid and we would get fish and chips. And then this alarmingly red sausage on the end is a saveloy. Saveloy is a British classic. Traditionally, they were made with pig brains, although nowadays I think that has been foregone in favor of just regular ground pork. It's a heavily spiced sausage with a distinctive red casing. It gets this from being boiled in water, which has food coloring added to it. One thing I do love about these is the thickness of the casing and the kind of snap that you get. These have always kind of fascinated me because it's somewhere between like a standard British sausage, but also with kind of like hot dog elements to it.
Yeah, I remember that sausage. It tasted weird. It tastes like a sausage that's wrong. It tasted like somebody guessed what a sausage was supposed to taste like.
I was able to get a battered sausage, and that's what it looks like. That's actually really good. I definitely understand now why Joe is always saying that UK sausages taste different. They do, but it's got a really nice crunch from the little casing, and it tastes really, really good with this batter. I think the sausage brings a much needed saltiness to the batter. So Harry likes to compare this to an American corn dog. I just don't see it. I mean, I guess I kind of see it a little bit because it's a type of sausage inside of a batter, but that's literally where the comparison ends for me. The batter is completely different to corn dog batter, and the sausage inside is not a hot dog. So it's a totally different taste. They're cousins, I'll give you that. Katya, please put a picture of a corn dog like right here. And then tell Harry that he's crazy.
Pies are on pretty much every British fish and chip shop menu. Here we have a steak and kidney pie and a Cornish pasty. Steak and kidney, in terms of pie filling, is about as British as it gets. I feel like often I will just lean for a full steak pie rather than a steak and kidney, but that's actually really good. You're not really getting full pieces of kidney, which is often what puts me off because the texture is a bit weird. We have sandwich options at UK Chippies as well. Firstly, we have a quarter pounder cheeseburger. Obviously, this isn't what most people would go to a chip shop to get. We also have a chicken burger. I have a real soft spot in my heart for like a bad chicken burger. The patty in this one is kind of like a big chicken nugget. And then we also have a cod burger. This one of the three looks by far the best. The shop we went to today also sells chicken. I wouldn't say this is common across the UK. I think it might just be more of a London thing. But we were able to get some southern fried chicken, a quarter roast chicken, and chicken nuggets.
On the sides, here's a few sides. You can get a Long John Silver's, and also we've got American chips stroke fries. Starting down here, LJS has green beans, corn, slaw. You know what it is, right? You can also get rice and cheese bites from various Long John Silver's locations. This right here, I've maybe mentioned this a few times on Food Wars or Food Tours episodes, are hush puppies. A donut hole is the best way I could describe it, even though it's not. It's a piece of dough that's deep fried. Let's take a look inside this guy, right? It's just deep fried breaded ball. It's more savory than sweet. You have a bit of an onion and garlic flavor to them. Usually dipped them in a sauce. These are good when you're eating really greasy fish and even greasy fries because they're dry, so they really like sop up that grease. These are fantastic. I could eat this whole tray. The fries you're gonna get at a US fish and chip spot or a Long John Silver's are going to vary. These are the ones we got today, crinkle cut. I've been to the fish and chip spots in London, and I felt like the fries, chips, they were thicker, denser, and not super crispy. I think you guys like to just dump all your malt vinegar and stuff on the fish and the chips. Totally get it. I'm certain there are places in America that do more of the thicker steak cut fries with the fish and chips, more traditional. I just think when you're dealing with Americans in America, when they think of chips or fries, they're just thinking of French fries, a majority of them. So this is probably what we're gonna get at most fish and chip places.
British chip shop chips, or chippy chips as they're affectionately known, are fantastic. They're very distinct from the average chip or French fry that you might find elsewhere. You get potatoes, you peel them, you slice them thickly, which is very important. They're usually soaked in water to remove some of the starch. They're usually blanched in oil at quite a low temperature before being given a proper second cook at a higher temperature. The result really is quite unique. You get a thick cut chip, which when it's hot can be a bit crispy on the outside, but because of how thick they are, you still retain a lot of that kind of soft, chewy, potatoey goodness in the middle. Not everywhere, but sometimes they are cooked in the same oil as the fish as well. So you get all these flavors kind of mingling together. And it really does produce just a very unique chip experience.
I'm gonna try the traditional chips with some salt and vinegar. I actually think the vinegar tastes better on the battered fish than it does the chips, but that's just a preference thing, I think. I don't feel like it meshes really well with it. It just feels like I'm eating a wet fry.
We can't talk about British chip shop sides without talking about mushy peas. These ones are, I would say, pretty representative of a UK mushy pea in general. They have this quite almost alarming green color to them, and there's just something about them that pairs really well with chip shop chips and fish. I'd say that's very much like a don't knock it till you've tried it food, where it might look a bit intimidating or a bit weird until you try it, then you try it and you're like, oh, I get it now.
That's not terrible. It's definitely got something extra in there. It's not just mashed peas, but I'm gonna dip one of the chips into the mushy peas. Harry said I had to try it this way, bottoms up. That's actually really good together. I like that combo.
The chip shop we went to today offers baked beans as a side. Maybe not one you'll find everywhere across the UK.
These are just as yummy as I remember. I just feel like the portion is so big, I can't even imagine eating this big of a bean portion, but the sauce is so good.
A pretty common thing to find on a UK chip shop menu is just a bread roll. The type of bread that you get varies. This is kind of more like a crusty bread roll, but I've definitely seen kind of softer, more BAP style on the menu as well. This one comes buttered. The main reason why they offer bread rolls at fish and chip shops is so you can craft your own chip butty at home.
I had no idea what a chip butty was, and never could I ever imagined it was just 2 pieces of bread with chips inside of it. I don't get this one. I'm gonna need Harry to explain this one to me. I don't get it.
Chip butty, for those who do not know, is an iconic British dish where you take a bread roll, you take chips, you put it in the bread roll, Bob's your uncle, you have a chip butty. You can optionally add other things. You can add some mushy peas in there, might want to vinegar that, you might want to maybe put some fish in there as well. Create a sandwich, but in its simplest form, that is a chip butty right there. That's butty, B-U-T-T-Y, which is a regional word for a bread roll. That is another one that can change all over the UK depending on where you are. You might hear the word balm, you might hear bap.
This just looks like it would be the driest, starchiest bite in the world, so we're gonna skip that one.
Almost all fish and chip shops in the UK will have a range of pickles on offer. I would say we have the big 3 right here. We have a pickled onion, a pickled egg, and of course a pickled gherkin. These are understandably a bit divisive. I feel like pickle things in general, you either love or you hate. I don't eat these things a lot, I'm gonna be honest. I think the main thing about it that does put me off is the texture, but the flavors are really good.
I've definitely had pickled red onion before, but never a whole pickled baby onion. I don't even know what kind of onion this is. I've never had this. It's not like a far jump from a red pickled onion, but I also would never eat just like, I'm not popping a whole onion into my mouth. This is a little, like it's too much.
Pickled egg. I was about to praise them and then I just got a whack of it in the back of my throat. It's not my favorite thing to pickle. So inside it's just kind of like a hard-boiled egg, but obviously with a lot of that vinegary flavor on the outside. I think the egg is it's so over, and the gherkin is we're so back, because who doesn't love a nice pickled gherkin? A pickle we can all get behind.
All of America, maybe they would like these kind of beans, since beans are already part of like barbecue culture, so this wouldn't be a huge jump. But the mushy peas, the chip buddy, that's confusing.
Then we're on to what I like to call the we have a fryer section of the menu. In this category today, we have a vegetable spring roll. We also have onion rings and also garlicky mushrooms. I do like a garlic mushroom. Now it's time for sauce talk.
Sauce talk.
Here's a wide variety of sauces we can get at Long John Silver's and other fish and chip spots. Malt vinegar, let's go. Yeah, that's fun.
Curry sauce is found pretty much all over the UK and is a personal favorite of mine. They add a lot of thickeners to the mixture because they always have such a gloopiness. They're quite glossy. It just pairs really well with chips. There's like a sweetness to it. It's well spiced.
Some places, like the place we got the cod fish and chips from, will provide their own sauce, their own signature sauce. Some places, they'll just be generous with something that maybe their own recipe, because I'm telling you, the fish and chip game is as follows. Have the best tartar sauce possible. We'll forgive how the fries are, we'll forgive how the chips are, if the sauce is on point. And this sauce, hang on. This is a very good sauce. Yes, I would frequent this place based on the sauce.
Our local chip shop in London also has gravy on the menu. This thing is gloopy and gelatinous. Chips and gravy, typically more of a northern thing here in the UK rather than a southern thing. Tastes very much just like a Bisto gravy, but it's good, I like it.
Here they got a cocktail sauce. Yeah, ooh, Long John Silver's. Your cocktail sauce is fantastic. Oh man, generous with the horseradish, that's what I'm talking about.
Obviously we have the classic condiments, including ketchup and mayo.
Long John Silver's also has ketchup, ranch, honey mustard, barbecue sauce, hot sauce, lemon juice.
And of course we have that tartar sauce from before. This one is homemade and honestly, one of the better ones I've had. Really tangy.
Yes, it's a Long John Silver's tartar sauce, but in the US, a lot of places are gonna throw at you packets of some sort of tartar sauce, you know? They don't think much about it. Now, Long John Silver's was smart to package their own. I'm hoping that is not just a generic brand that they slap their name on, that they actually have a recipe for it. It tastes like they do. I've just been informed that the UK spells their tartar sauce T-A-R-T-A-R-E. We spell ours T-A-R-T-A-R. The tartar with no extra E is the word that we also use to describe dental plaque.
You might have heard that Brits love to put salt and vinegar on their fish and chips, but you're only half right. What a lot of Brits are actually adding to their chips is this. It's a non-brewed condiment. For something to be called vinegar, it actually has to be fermented to produce the acetic acid that gives it that tang. The trouble with that is that it takes time and money. What you'll find on many fish and chip tables across the UK is therefore this non-brewed condiment. Functionally, it's exactly the same as vinegar. We also have an onion vinegar or a onion non-brewed condiment. Finally, the drinks. These will obviously vary depending on the location you're at, but typically you'll find things like Coke, Fanta, and standard soft drinks. What I wanted to call attention to was some of the more traditional British soft drinks that fish and chip shops in particular have really stayed loyal to. Firstly, cream soda. I'm not sure if this is something that's drunk in America, but this is definitely a classic British soft drink. The fact that my granddad used to love cream soda is mostly what I'm basing that on.
I was actually able to scrounge up quite a few traditionally British and also Scottish drinks. So first up, we have Ben Shaw's Dandelion and Burdock. I don't know what any of this means. It smells like cream soda. Yep, that's literally just cream soda. That's good.
Here we have a personal favourite of mine. It's Dandelion and Burdock. Dandelion and Burdock is actually a drink that has been consumed in one form or another since the Middle Ages here in the UK. Back in the day, it was a form of mead made with fermented dandelion and burdock roots. Bit different nowadays, it's just a pretty standard carbonated fizzy drink. Cheers. It's just good.
Next we have White's Lemonade. I believe that lemonade in the UK is carbonated, so that's definitely different. Here it is not traditionally carbonated. It kind of tastes like cleaning liquid. Okay, next we have, I don't know if this is pronounced Tizer. Tizer doesn't sound right, but if it is right, I'm sorry. But on this can, it says it's the Great British Pop, so I wonder if it tastes like cola. Oh yeah, it kind of smells like Coke, but it's not. Oh, is it red? It does not taste like Coke. To me, it tastes like it has some sort of citrusy flavor in there. I cannot put my finger on it. Next, we have Iron Brew. I believe this is a Scottish beverage. I mean, this has much more of a medicinal aftertaste. This is better. So the flavor of this is supposed to be citrus and vanilla. I'm not really getting a ton of citrus notes. Definitely maybe some vanilla. It just tastes like cream soda. It's a little too sweet for me, but it's pretty good.
And then finally we have a bitter shandy. Bitter shandy is another British classic. Traditionally it's a 50-50 mix of a bitter beer and a sparkling lemonade. The type of bitter shandy that you get in cans usually isn't the same, it's less alcoholic. I think this one is 0.5% alcohol by volume, which is the same as most non-alcoholic beers. I'm not much of a bitter drinker myself, but that is really good. They've diluted it to the point where even I am like, yeah, that's really tasty.
We couldn't find Club Shandy, but we did find this bar Shandy Aid. I think they're supposed to be similar. That was really bad. It smells like beer, but it doesn't taste like beer. In the US, shandies are typically beer mixed with some sort of lemonade. This tastes nothing like that, if that's what they were trying to go for. Moving on to something I know very well, but I've never had this flavor. This is the Fanta Pineapple and Grapefruit. That sounds really yummy. This is delicious. Yum. Take that Shandy-Aid taste right out of my mouth. We also have two beers, London Pride and the Boddington's Pub Ale. I feel like out of all of them, the only one I see Americans gravitating towards might be the Fanta. I mean, we do like cream soda here too, so the Dandelion and Burdock and the Iron Brew might fit that vibe a little bit. I did get a little extra special treat from Assault and Battery. They had this deep fried Mars bar. We're tasting that. This is good, but I feel like this type of batter is not my favorite with candy. It's like too thick, it's too much, but it does taste very good.
A regular portion of cod from our local chippy is £10 when ordered to go. Non-Londoners might wince at that price, but honestly that's a pretty good deal in the capital. A regular portion of chips from our local costs £3.50, so a complete fish and chip supper would total £13.50.
A comparable option would be this Long John Silver's 3-piece with fries combo meal. Comes with 2 sets of Hush Puppies. Sorry, I've been snacking on them all day. There should be more. And 2 sides for $13.99 American. Now this is less expensive than the UK meal and what looks to be more food.
The price of regular cod and regular chips from Assault and Battery is $17.95. $17.95 does seem pretty good for the amount of food that you get. The portion of fish was really big, the portion of chips was pretty big, so I can see myself being decently full eating that portion. I think seafood in general in America has some pretty big price discrepancies, at least here in the tri-state area. It does. Shrimp can cost you anywhere from like $15 to $20 at the grocery store. So this price seems pretty normal for a decent piece of fish. I think any cheaper and I'd be suspicious of the fish. The quality was great though, so I'd be fine with paying the $17.
Fish and chip shops have come under some criticism recently for subjecting their customers to some of the steepest price rises in the UK food scene. Recent data from the Office for National Statistics found that the average price for a portion of fish and chips in the UK is now £9.88. That's up from just £6.48 in 2019, so a 52% increase in that time period. It's not that we're being gouged by fish and chip shops, they've just suffered a perfect storm of rising costs. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has driven seafood prices up due to increased tariffs on imported fish. Changing climates have affected potato harvests and caused potato prices to rise as well. And of course, this has all been compounded by the increased energy costs all Brits have faced in recent years. The vinegar maker Sarson's issued a stark warning to Brits last year that unless things improve, almost half of British fish and chip shops could close by 2025. They urge Brits to eat more fish and chips in order to save our chippies and protect our national dish. On average, Brits consume around 7 portions of fish and chips each per year. Raising that to 9 could give our chippies the boost they need. I've certainly done my bit today. There are some clear differences in the ingredients between US and UK fish and chip dishes. The most notable one, of course, is the fish. Cod is the UK's most popular fish when it comes to a fish and chip supper. There are several species of cod, but the one we typically consume here in the UK is Atlantic cod. Cod has had a rocky journey in recent history. A series of cod wars fought between the UK and Iceland from the 50s to the 70s drove its price up and severely damaged the UK fishing industry. In addition to that, the Northwest Atlantic cod fishing industry completely collapsed at the start of the 90s after years of overfishing. Cod stocks had dropped to 1% of historic levels in the Northwest Atlantic. This led to the Canadian government imposing a complete moratorium on cod fishing in order to save the species.
The moratorium came into place in 1992. It was only supposed to last just 2 years, but stocks didn't recover as expected, so it stayed in place. It wasn't until this summer that the Canadian government announced that it was lifting the cod fishing moratorium after the report changed the fish's status from critical to cautious. Canadian fishing vessels are allowed to bring in 18,000 metric tons of cod in the 2024 season. That's estimated to be just 6% of current cod stocks, so they're taking a fairly cautious approach. Some, including marine biologist Daniel Pauly, are not sure lifting the moratorium was the right call. He says the cod population was recovering in spite of all odds, and that it was rebuilding and now it won't be rebuilt. Ecologically speaking, the Alaskan pollock, favored by Long John Silver's, is in a much better spot than the cod. The Marine Conservation Society rates Alaskan pollock as sustainable, and it was also certified as sustainable by the Marine Stewardship Council in 2019.
There's a strong case for fish and chips being the national dish of the UK. In terms of iconic status and widespread popularity, it's right up there with your Sunday roasts and your full English breakfasts. The most recent polling data from YouGov has fish and chips at an 84% popularity rating with Brits.
Fish and chips, I think, is a more popular American cuisine than people realize. It's very popular, obviously, on the East Coast, and I would say parts of the West Coast as well, where there's access to fish more. Even in the Midwest, I mean, people love their fish fries, especially around Lent, and not. People might not think of it when they think of American cuisine. I mean, Long John Silver's is, I didn't even know it was still in business until we had to get the food for this video. Don't sleep on fish and chips. I'd give it the top 15, top 20 cuisines in America. Would I get fish and chips? Almost certainly not.
I don't think I'd put fish and chips in the top 10 of cuisines you'd find in America. I don't even know if saying it's in the top 50 is super fair. We do have our fried seafood here, but I just don't feel like this dish in particular is as popular as it is in the UK. It's not as available, it's not super common. I think you have to look for it.
There was, at one point in the 1970s, a chain called Arthur Treacher's that rivaled McDonald's for the number of restaurants in the United States. Now it's only down to 2 locations, both of which are in Ohio. You also potentially could have gotten fish and chips at a Red Lobster, which recently filed for bankruptcy. I'm picking up on a trend here on fish-centric fast food spots.
It's hard to pinpoint exactly when and where fish and chips became such a British staple. The general consensus is that fried fish really took off in the UK in the early Victorian era. Charles Dickens even mentions fried fish in Oliver Twist, which was written around that time. Some claim that Marlin's in Bow, London, was the first place to intentionally pair fish with chips around the year 1860. Although it must be said that the Lee family near Manchester also claims this accolade. The number of fish and chip shops in the UK peaked in 1927 with 35,000. Nowadays, that number is closer to 10,500. 2,500, according to research from Seafish. While that number isn't as high as it used to be, that's still more than McDonald's, Subway, Greg's, and Nando's combined. Finally, here are some of my favorite fish and chip facts. Fish and chips are actually most popular in Belfast, where 54% of residents report eating them at least once a month. The UK actually started a National Fish and Chip Day in 2015. This year is being celebrated on June 6th. Fish and chips were traditionally served wrapped in old newspapers. This practice was banned in the 1980s after people realized the ink was leaching onto the food. Although you will still see people serving them in fake food-safe newspapers. The largest fish and chip shop in the UK is the Harry Ramsden's location in Bournemouth, which has space for 420 diners.
Wow, another award-winning Food Wars. Just a reminder, we release a Food Wars episode every Sunday on this channel right here at Food Insider. Be sure to subscribe and also leave us a comment below of any type of food you would like to see us go head-to-head. A Food Wars episode you'd love to see, let us know, and maybe we'll do it.